Hi, I'm Christian Chavez, Data Center Cloud Solutions Architect for Aspire's Technology Partners, and welcome to Aspire Data Streams. Today, I have with me the Senior Product Manager and Tech-evangelist at Turbonomic, Jon Meyer. And what we're going to dive into is cloud adoption and the pitfalls of moving to the cloud. Jon, I'll let you do your intro. Let us know all about yourself.
Well, I'll give you a quick and short introduction. Hi, everyone. My name's Jon Meyer. I'm a senior product marketing manager and tech evangelist for Turbonomic, an IBM company. So, Christian, thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's great. I'll tell you what, I was pretty excited when I was thinking about who to connect with on this specific topic that we're going to cover today. And you came to mind right away. I've been following you for quite some time. You and I worked together in the past, and you're doing some great stuff out there. So let's just get into it. Obviously, we're talking cloud. That's the theme that we're going to go with today. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is, when trying to get to the cloud, right? We hear a lot of these things that are coming out where we neither have a need to get to cloud, something's driving us to cloud. Cloud adoption is huge, and there's steps that we need to take as solutions architect or somebody who's actually looking to move to cloud. There are steps that we actually need to take to get to cloud, because one simply just does not move to the cloud, right? It's not one of these effortless things where you just pick things up and move. So, but the cloud adoption is has kind of made me curious, because when I go in there and have conversations with some of my clients or prospects, my first question is, why are you moving to the cloud? Cloud adoption is huge. Jon, what have you seen when it comes to cloud adoption? Why are people moving to the cloud, and what are they looking for in that journey?
So, two of the things that I've noticed with cloud adoption is one, elasticity. Everybody wants to move to the cloud for elasticity. But the other key driving factor is the services. The depth of services that these cloud public providers are offering are phenomenal. If you think about it, these things can't really be built in the time that they need to be available faster than you can actually spin them up in a cloud provider. An example, think about it. If you have to build maybe an AI or ML type service, right? It'll take you a couple of months to do that when you can turn to a public cloud provider and spin it up in minutes. So it's really going to be one of those key driving factors of the services that are available to it. On top of that, the elasticity that cloud provides.
Got it. And so one of the key things that I'm kind of hearing a lot, right, is, so you and I had a conversation previously about this. We're always chatting it up about what's going on in cloud. And then we also kind of, in our last podcast, we had kind of talked about what cloud means. Obviously, it means different things to a lot of different people. There could be cloud like hyperscalers, AWS, there's Azure, Google, and then there's other cloud providers as well that are building their clouds on top of VMware. So it kind of gives you an easier move to cloud if you're already consuming VMware. So there's a lot of cloud benefits that that we're seeing. You had mentioned one, building applications. If you're using AI ML, that might be a driver. So it kind of breaks down into kind of what I see as two categories. And if there's more, I'd love to hear them. But one is, we want to get out of the data center, right? We don't want to keep building these things. There's a refresh cost that happens every year. Or we just don't have the resources to manage it. And it feels like it's easier to move to cloud. And then, so the benefits there, that seems to me that the cost benefit is the greatest thing that we're after, right? There's an understanding, and sometimes it's not correct, that it's cheaper to be in the cloud, whatever cloud you're consuming. But in order for you to be cheaper, there needs to be some things. So the cloud benefits itself, you had mentioned some. What can you talk about the cost benefits of cloud today?
Cost benefits of cloud. If you are just going to move your data center into the cloud, your cost is probably going to increase rather than being on premises. If you're not using cloud for what it's meant to be, the elasticity of cloud, right? You're not using the services. You're not actually building or utilizing those managed services that those cloud providers are offering you, then your cost is going to increase. One of the things you got to look at is really taking your on-premise applications, right? And maybe applying the six, actually there's 7 Rs now, but you're applying them to every single application when moving to the cloud. You do an analysis. Should I lift and shift? Should I refactor this? Should I rehost? Should I retire? Doing all those things ahead of time, you will actually probably get a chance to see what AWS or Azure or GCP services you can utilize the most. Picking your cloud provider is the one that's going to be defined by what services that you need or looking for, right? People move to the cloud for various reasons that you mentioned. You're going to go to a specific one, not only for the services, but also for the costs. Which one is providing the best discounts? Which ones are you currently integrated in that you can easily set up? What about your skills? I mean, we can go on and on about all the different types of things and decisions that go into moving to cloud, but cost is definitely a driving factor. But what happens is cost is thought of after the fact, and then they're already in the cloud and their cost has skyrocketed. And now there's actually new roles being created just to manage the cost of the cloud.
Right, right. And so you bring up a good point. I think the very first thing is to pick a cloud, like what cloud provider you think fits you best in terms of what you're doing. I'd mentioned one way of getting to cloud adoption through minimizing your footprint in the data center or maybe moving altogether outside of the data center space. The other thing is, are you moving an application? Are you developing an application that can leverage other resources and services from cloud providers today, like AWS, Azure, and Google? So, what cloud are you looking to get to, right? And then ultimately, the services that they'll provide you, and I know I've used AWS's calculator, right? But that you can kind of get lost in that, and I don't think it really provides you a true metric into what we're looking at. So when you're selecting your cloud as first option, right? Why am I moving, and what cloud serves me best in that area? And then ultimately, how do I gain the benefits of cloud? Meaning, maybe it is a cost thing. Maybe you are looking to get to the cheaper monthly, and it's not really about the services. So it's really key when you're trying to select that cloud. But there are pitfalls, right? When you're moving or you're looking to migrate to cloud. And a lot of that has to do with what are we moving, right? I said it. Are we looking to minimize our data center footprint? Are we looking to get out of the data center altogether? Or are we building an application that could leverage and service? So, from your perspective, you've been in the cloud for quite some time, working in that space. In both areas, if you can kind of touch upon like what pitfalls have you seen, or what can somebody run into when they're trying to make this migration to cloud?
Christian, you and I had this conversation offline, actually a little bit before, and we were talking about it. And I have to use your phrase. I hope you don't mind, but some of the pitfalls
Oh, no.
are not cleaning your house before moving to the cloud. Basically, do what you need to do. Don't move this stuff to the cloud that you're not going to need or utilize. Right size, clean up, optimize before you move to the cloud to make it easier. Yet, this doesn't work for every single case. Sometimes you need to go quickly, and you can get some benefits and cost savings by doing a lift and shift. I'm not talking that you can't do that, but I'm talking about like clean the house before moving. Because what happens is applications and business owners tend to over provision before moving to the cloud. I know this isn't, really about, talking too much about Turbonomic, but I have to share that there are applications and software out there that will provide you maybe a business plan, a migration plan to move that application over and to optimize it before you get there. Say,
Right.
maybe you need the right size. And I hate using that term. I think it's a little bit overused in some cases. But if you really right size it based off the application performance before you move it, there is the cost and the benefit of moving towards the cloud, even before you use some of those services that are provided.
Yeah, you know what? I hammer that pretty hard when I'm having conversations. Is ultimately at the end of the day, right? Infrastructure, whether it's on prem or in the cloud, is really built for applications that are running the business, right? And at the end of the day, the apps is what's providing the value. So we need to make sure that whatever we're looking to do, whether it's data center migrations or application development, it's really about getting the best performance. So that comes back to, again, one, cloud selection. The question is, why am I moving to cloud? What's my driver? Why do I need to adopt this? Secondly, would be internalize that. Let's look at what we have currently today in terms of applications, And if we're looking to move data center, we're moving everything, right? That's our challenge, right? We're moving everything. But if we're looking to just move some of our services out of the data center, because we're not, we're going to live in a hybrid world. We're seeing a lot of that today. So I have applications that are either going to stay on prem or move out to the cloud. So in that model of what I was saying, let's clean up internally what we have today in terms of applications. What resources do we need? How is it performing today? Right? Are we looking to migrate because of performance and we can get some benefits in performance somewhere else? So when we internalize that, pick a cloud and let's look at the applications we're going to move. If it's the whole thing, what does that mean, right? In terms of utilization, when we're looking at resources, and then the cost benefit that we're going to try to realize from cloud. Again, I don't think there's a single, formula to figure out exactly, but you can get close, right? You're not going to take your 32 gig SQL Server and want to move that into a cloud model because you're just going to overspend at that point, right? So we're looking at our on-prem. So now, when it comes to looking at that internally, I mean, you're looking at your data center, your applications that you're going to move. Some of the things that we often miss, to be honest with you, is because we're talking infrastructure, we're talking about applications, but there's also a process of your IT staff, right? Because not only does your applications need to be performant, but we also have to make sure that our resources in terms of people are able to actually provide value in maintaining that IT infrastructure, right? So there could be a learning curve there. We could be introducing pain at the process level. So again, not just looking at your applications and house cleaning that, but also house cleaning the processes that you're doing internally today, because it's going to change. Have you ever had conversations around the process aspect of, moving to the cloud as opposed to just the infrastructure?
So, Christian, all that stuff actually has to change in one way or another moving towards the cloud. You and I come from a traditional data center background. We work together. We were racking and stacking servers. You over
Oh yeah.
provision. You actually give it so much because you don't want any issues down the road. You're thinking long term, 3 to 5 years. You have to change that mentality of traditional IT staff managing on-prem to cloud, right?
Hmm.
There's a skill set. Not everybody has that, but everybody can learn that. There are so many tools and variables out there that allow you to help that. Your processes internally are going to have to change. Maybe you're using a DevOps model. You want to go CI/CD. You want to actually ingest the changes into your pipeline and make the changes actually form all the way back out to your infrastructure that is handling the application. You have to think of from the start to the end and what's it going to take to not only your current on-premise, maybe your traditional IT staff, and what it's going to think for a cloud IT staff, and kind of marry them in together. You're not going to go 100% from on-prem to cloud from 0 to 60. So you have time to train that staff because they already have that traditional and the tribal knowledge of on-prem and that application to move to cloud. So if you train them, they get to play around, they understand the application on there. Remember, IT only exists for the application for the business. So if you invest in them, you invest in your long-term future of cloud, and processes will change along the way. There's so many tools out there available, digital transformation, cloud optimization, whatever you want to do, get your plans ready, get them in place, get it down, and really help grow the business.
Exactly. So there is one thing I do want to bring up, before moving on to the next, is the driver, right? A lot of times the driver is either coming from above or it's maybe pushing up from the bottom, right? Infrastructure is looking for self-service. Infrastructure is looking for better performance, and there's a lot, and they're getting it from developers or maybe the applications that are performant. But there's also a need for you to pull that up, right? Leadership, get to leadership, and get them to have a mindset of adoption, to cloud. But then there's a reverse of that, right? There's leadership that's actually driving it downward, meaning, hey, we know about cloud, we know about what the benefits are. Maybe it's a cost benefit or not, right? But they're pushing it downward. So when it comes to the processes of that, it's not only the IT operations people, but it's also the leadership team that needs to be on board of that, because there's a lot of moving pieces, and having to kind of look at the strategy to get to cloud. What does that mean from infrastructure to applications to IT processes to the leadership buy-in. So those to me I think are key and at least getting started, right? That's sort of like where you build your plan from in moving to cloud, right? Ultimately, then it comes back down to the applications, making sure that we build cloud resources that will be able to support the application to be performant enough, and maybe we get that through metrics. But I know you've talked to a lot of leadership, right? And then maybe you've seen both sides of things. What can if we're driving upward, right? Obviously, if leadership's pushing down, your infrastructure team or development teams are all on board, right? Because they're given the mandate, we need to do this. But what if we're looking at the reverse of it, right? Let's say I'm an IT director and I want to move to cloud because I realize there's benefits in cloud, but I need to bring that upward. What do you think a conversation? How can we get leadership to actually take that on as a move that would be, benefit the organization and the applications themselves?
From driving from bottom up, I've seen it probably take twice as long. Leadership executive buy in, basically driving down, and everybody being on board is key. The reason I say that is because coming down, right? Everybody's on board. There's like the leader wants to go to cloud. I've got, I'm really highly energized people who want to do it. And it's really kind of gone. But you also have to realize that some of the people that are in those roles for a while might have a little bit of pushback. But on the reverse side, if you have a very young kind of IT organization who is utilizing or has some experience in cloud and is driving up, some of the conversations, yeah, the executives are going to look at, cost, how much am I going to save? But think of it this way. How much can I save, but how much can the application perform? Can I get better performance and can I invest that money in more and other different software and tools?
Right.
What else can we do? Every organization has new projects, but you have to have the budget for that. If you're driving up, from the bottom, right? What's going to happen is you're going to say, listen, I can do X, Y, and Z and save $1 million. Well, that's going to account for a bigger budget for us to take on more projects. It does take a little bit more from a director standpoint in trying to drive up. But if you have the right conversations with the right people, you'll get the executive buy-in and you really show them the value of cloud. And I'm not talking one specific cloud provider. I'm talking any cloud provider. If you have a solid plan in place, when you present this to executive leadership on how it can be done, you have a better chance of moving to the cloud and having complete company buy-in than when the executives are in it as well. It's going to go company-wide.
So yeah, I mean, we're going to get into that because I think there's something very crucial that you could put inside of that, right? So when presenting to leadership, there are some things that we can do with tooling that would provide value in you driving that upwards into leadership and get ultimate buy-in. Because at the end of the day, it's about the numbers, right? Making sure that not only are we being profitable, but also the applications which drive those profits ultimately remain up and performant and servicing whether it's internal or external clients. But yeah.
I agree with you, Christian. Having the right tooling in place for full stack visibility into your application infrastructure is key into making the driving factor. Because if you think about it, if you have a awesome performing application, right, the business is happy. When the business is happy, the executives are happy. And now you're all on the same field where the executives are like, whatever you're doing to get us there on-prem and cloud, we're doing it, keep it up.
Agreed. Yep. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of Aspire Technology Partners Data Streams. Look forward to part 2, where we talked about optimization of infrastructure, as well as resource management and the benefits you can get from moving to cloud.